Volume 95.
The comments from one of the most influential voices on the socialist left in the U.S. How would you respond to that? Danny, let's start with you.
I hate this clown. I'm sorry. I have to admit it. And I know he represents this like complete socialist left, these folks that are typically the limousine liberals, the wealthy folks within this age range between 18 to 35. But what was good about the Wisconsin race, it was an open primary. So you had a number of unaffiliated voters that are actually common sense individuals that actually care about the economy, safety, education, healthcare, the actual issues to get people's lives better. This guy doesn't. Well, I'm sorry, socialist left does not. So they just care about themselves. They care about ensuring that the establishment, the boomers, all these folks that have typically actually led the way to progress in the United States are being batted down so then they can put in their theory of how life works, right? So no police, no nothing, no prisons. Let these folks cause anarchy. That's their position.
Nicole?
Well, I wish more establishment Democrats had your mentality, because if they did, I'm not talking about the far left, I'm talking about establishment Democrats, they would come out and they would say, this guy does not represent us. Do not follow him. He is a cancer on our party. He is not just wrong about everything he's saying. He is a hateful, deeply mentally disturbed individual. He's sick in the head. But I don't see too many establishment Democrats distancing from him, because that is really not what they're like. They're very strategic. If we see, my prediction is, if we see establishment Democrats starting to distance from Hassan Piker, it'll be not because they're distancing from the mentally deranged things he's saying, it's because his candidates will continue to lose and he will become strategically disadvantageous to the left.
Chris?
I think he's probably having a good time. I mean, this seems to be his moment, right? You know, everyone keeps talking about him all the time. Every time I see him on the screen over here, I'm like, oh God, Uncle's back. He's 35 years old, plays video games for a living, and he's yelling at boomers now. He wants to ban boomers. He calls Trump like a totalitarian, authoritarian, and everything. He wants to ban old people from voting. Okay. And of course he says it because, you know, that's what his audience wants to hear. They want to say crazy things. They want to chat him and, you know, get their thing read out and have a good time, you know. But again, he has a chat comment section. He doesn't really have an audience. And you can see that the normal people in Wisconsin delivered a different result.
Well, let's talk to you about something a bit more fun. So, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, or shall we say the king of memes, so him and his wife recently appeared on Katie Miller's podcast, where they discussed everything from life since he became the nation's top diplomat to Pete Hegseth's cat, the secret to a happy marriage, and Rubio's sweet tooth. So we have to clip the internet down to the funniest. Are you Maha?
I'm in favor of Maha. Like, I think people should be healthy.
No, he is not.
But I think ultimately, at
He
the
is
end,
completely not.
What's he eat?
Pop-Tarts.
no, I don't eat Pop-Tarts every day.
Okay, you eat sweets.
The Pop-Tart is one of the great American innovations in the history of the world.
Now, Health Secretary R.P. Jr. later responded to Rubio's comments with a meme showing him dressed up as Aladdin and standing on a Pop-Tart. Chris, your thoughts?
Well, you missed the soundbite, I have to say, because he also said right now we have no Pop-Tarts at this house. And then he goes on to say, he's talking about keto diet. And he says that he had a near psychotic event when he tried keto. And, you know, coming from a news office where everyone's trying to look thin, I know a few people on keto diet, they are daily having a near psychotic. But he said, if I did this job and he was on keto, I would say, Mr. President, we must bomb Paraguay. And that's true, because you can get really grumpy and crazy. So I have something. I prepared in true State Department fashion a humanitarian aid package here for Secretary Rubio that we are going to crack open. You know, they came out, Denny did. He was very upset that the Trump administration, he alleged, got rid of humanitarian aid. They cut all this funding. And we the people will provide the charity. And I like to invite the secretary, no sanctions, no nothing. Come to NTD, we'll have a good time eating Pop-Tarts.
All right, Daddy.
But I guess the only thing I'm going to say is a couple fun facts on this one. Funny thing, Pop-Tarts was initially created in 1964 by Kellogg. It had a different name. It was something like Sweet Scones. And then they changed it to Pop-Tart in honor of Andy Warhol's pop art. That's why Pop-Tart was named. And not only that, the original tinfoil, this is not one of the tinfoil, but the original tinfoil that Pop-Tarts were housed in was actually created during World War II to actually keep the food for our American military like safe and fresh and everything else like that. So when he actually mentioned that during that interview, that this was the tinfoil itself was an American innovation, and that's what he's referencing.
All right, Nicole.
I mean, I should have gone first because I can't follow both of them now. But I don't have fun facts. I don't have Pop-Tarts. What I will say is that Secretary Rubio, obviously incredibly smart, talented, impeccable work ethic. In fact, all the memes are really about his work ethic, how he's, in new roles and positions all the time because he's so competent. So this is really, nice. It's nice to humanize him. I think the perception is, okay, he probably eats perfectly all the time because he's Marco Rubio and he's an incredible human being. And no, it turns out the guy just likes Pop-Tarts. So I thought it was a very nice, humanizing, relatable moment.
And we will end on that note because I also don't know how I'm going to top that. So thank you all so much for joining us, Nicole, Chris, and Denny. Coming up, though, he was born without limbs, but he carried a strict refusal to be defined by any limits life might throw his way. Tonight, he joins us to talk about his life and the documentary inspired by his journey. It's next. Welcome back. Some good vibes for you tonight as we close the show. Nick Vujicic was born without arms or legs, but with a spirit refusing to be defined by limits. The Australian-American evangelist, author, and motivational speaker says his childhood marked by bullying, isolation, and depression. But that just a prologue to an amazing journey of love, faith, and strength that has inspired millions. Now, Nick's life story heading to the big screen in the documentary No Limbs, No Limits, the Nick V Story. And joining me now is the man himself, Nick Vujicic. Nick, thank you so much for joining us. Wonderful to have you. Now, you have an incredible life story, and you have touched so many lives by sharing it through your books and speeches, and now you're telling that story on the big screen for the first time. What has enabled you to persist through the difficulties you've faced and turn your story into something that continues to inspire so many people?
My parents always said, be thankful for what you have. God didn't give you arms and legs, but he gave you a brain, and just take one step at a time and do with what you have to the best of your ability. And, when you're going to school and you're getting bullied and you're trying to fit in, that's hard. And so the mental health war, if you will, at a young age, trying to fit in and asking God, where are you? That was definitely a challenge I had to overcome. But with persistence, resilience, and a loving family that helped me to get through it, I want people to know that people see my disability on the outside, but we all have a disability on the inside. And this film is all about conquering our broken hearts, a need to renew our mind, and to dream big and never give up.
And let's talk about the film No Limbs, No Limits, the Nick V Story, coming to theaters September 25th. Now, the trailer came out just this week. Let's actually play a part of it now for our audience.
Nick had the choice to be really angry, but he transformed. What if your life is a musical? My crazy janitor tried to tell me that I had a story.
I knew that he would be a speaker. I knew.
He decided he's going to go into the world and tell his story.
I went through a time of doubt that I...
And that's exactly what he did.
I was sitting in the backyard with him one night, just thinking, you made it.
It was getting harder for Nick to speak when he was losing his dad.
When you go out to the world, they're going to lie to you that you need to be somebody before you're accepted.
I used to think I'm never going to be able to hold my wife's hand. I'm never going to be able to wrap my arms around my children when they're crying.
Well, the world
was about to see Nick. And it'll never be the same again.
Both inspiring and moving, and just from the trailer. Now, I noticed the song choice in the trailer is for King and Country's Miracle. I understand you actually chose that song yourself. Why did that feel like the right anthem for the film's message?
You know, when I heard about that incredible song coming from dear friends, Aussie friends, you know, for a long time, the whole point of, you know, sometimes our requests to the Lord, God, give me a miracle. Well, sometimes when you don't get a miracle, you can be a miracle still for someone else. And to understand that we all have a story, your history is his story. And so to understand that I'm so privileged and honored that my story can be on a big screen. It's not about which story is what. It's about understanding what God can do with your broken pieces and your yes. And there's no limits as to what God can do with you. And so if I can just help one person understand that there is hope for them, that's an incredible miracle on this side of heaven.
And I understand that the documentary draws heavily on personal home videos and family footage, much of which has never been seen publicly before. What was it like revisiting those vulnerable moments and deciding to share them with the world?
You know, I'm so glad for my mom, my brother, and my sister. And, you know, my Uncle Sam, who's also featured in the documentary, he was the one that actually got the first video camera in the whole family. And my mom asked, hey, can I record some of Nick here and there? Now, when I've seen some of this, you know, these clips here and there, some of these things I've never seen before. And to be able to relive it, it was quite emotional, quite surreal. And it really is a raw, transparent, behind the curtain look of not just my life story, but understanding that we were all very strong Christians as a family. My dad was a pastor, and there are still times where even the strongest Christians go through different questions, fears, wondering where is God when we ask God for something and it doesn't happen. And so we believe this story of No Limbs, No Limits is an incredible story to relate to everyone, no matter what circumstance you're going through, to pull back a raw and transparent, really insight to understanding that even though you're a Christian, you still go through depression. You still go through fear. You still have questions and uncertainties that every human being has, but how God can turn that into good, it's miraculous.
And in looking back at your own journey while making this film, did you discover anything new or realize something about yourself that maybe surprised you?
You know what? I've been looking at all these, you know, clips, and all I can say is I'm so humbled. Look, I'm so blessed to have seen the greatest dreams of mine come true. I got married to Kanae. We got 4 beautiful kids, and traveling the world, 89 countries through, you know, Nick V Ministries and preaching the gospel to let everyone know that God loves you, He's with you, He'll pull you through. I think the whole, I guess, understanding. I'm in my, you know, mid-40s. Normally, people, when they get a documentary about a life story of theirs, if you will, or journey, you're either old or dead. And I hope I'm only halfway through, right? And so we want to emanate an ignition of an inspiration that if He can use a man without arms and legs to be His hands and feet, then God can use any willing heart. And that's the whole point, that I think in this next generation and the now generation, with depression, anxiety, addiction, I think we're looking for purpose like never before. And even purposeness in our pain. To believe that God's grace is sufficient, there is hope, and if I can just help one other person get through, then it's all worth it.
And very quickly on that note, for people walking into the theater on September 25th, what are you most excited for them to experience and message you hope they walk away with?
You know, this is such a great interview. I want people to invite their friends, their work colleagues, their neighbors that may never go to four-wall church building and come to a theater and be changed forever. It's not about Nick's inspiration, intellect, or successes. It's all about understanding that we all go through our ups and downs, and that victory is possible. It doesn't mean that the successes along the way always look like what we think it would be, but to know that hope is real is everything.
Well, Nick Vujicic, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your story.
Thank you so much.
And thank you for joining us for this edition of Tiffany Meyer Tonight. I'm Tiffany Meyer, and we'll see you tomorrow.